we want to make a positive impact. So it's important that our approach to parliamentary representatives in the context of an election period be effective. And to be effective, we have to maintain our, I guess, non-partisan and impartial approach to the issues, but encourage all participants in the election to take up the ideas of the SDGs. And I think a good way to open that in the discussion with anyone you're contacting is to use the toolkit to open with our broad beliefs, the values of the UN and how those SDGs reflect our values. And we should also focus initially on winning the confidence, particularly where you're talking to a parliamentary representative who is a member of the government, on what things you can identify that are already being done in the way that we would like. The focus of the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, for example, on SDGs, but then be able to use that entree or go in from there to the broadening use of the SDGs in other aspects of government. We can talk about that further in a moment. We should contextualise this in ensuring that while it's sometimes used by some political advocates to sideline the UN as some sort of foreign influence that is not important to Australia, I think we should continue to press the value of Australia's international reputation and indicate how our implementation of SDGs can enhance our reputation and enhance the capacity of Australia to make for a better and more peaceful, more sustainable and fairer world. And it's important, I think, that someone at a parliamentary level, particularly at the national level, should have some conscious willingness to adopt that at the very least. And then, of course, introducing the SDGs. I think one of the challenges with introducing SDGs is that because there are 17 of them, it looks like it's complicated at first sight. So perhaps the best way is to talk about the overall purpose of the SDGs, their interdependencies, and how by embedding them in the strategies of government, we can improve the quality of life of Australians and also improve the benefits to the Australian economy. But without being prescriptive about specific actions that the SDGs might require. But we can, of course, make suggestions if we identify, as Susan mentioned, that particular SDGs are of interest to particular candidates, then by all means pursue those discussions with specific actions that would further the SDGs in those specific areas. Obviously, we've got lots of good resources that are on the website, and our toolkit indicates what actions we would like implemented, and obviously furthering the discussion around those actions and what things we can do to support the candidate in their efforts to advance those actions can be a point of, I think, constructive discussion. So we should have a specific ask, try to lead the conversation to a point where we specifically ask them to do something and get them to identify what they can do in advancing at least one or more of the calls to action that Andrew mentioned earlier. And of course, Claire mentioned the Parliamentary UN Friends Group. Well, we should encourage that to be reinvigorated on the commencement of each Parliament after an election. And most importantly, make sure that we role model the very values that we're asking candidates to promote. We've got to be respectful. We mustn't be unnecessarily aggressive, but nevertheless be assertive of the advantages and values that we're promoting. So taking on those things, I think if we make those approaches, do it consistently, be moderate and respectful in our approach, we can have a positive impact and at least encourage more of the potential parliamentary members to become more actively engaged in their understanding of the SDGs. Thank you.